cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
You ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
Welcome to the View from C-Deck.
Here with Haas this week. We're going to break down some college football gambling lines, put in our picks. The Dyerwolf, our gambling king, couldn't make it in today, but he did send me his picks. I'm going to call them the Dyerwolf Delights because it's really stupid sounding.
That's catchy. I like it.
That's what he deserves right now. So we'll get to those later. We're each going to pick five games that we have the most confidence in our picks. You know, you wouldn't bet every single line every week. That's just dumb. That's what Vegas wants you to do. Don't give in. Don't give in to the desire. If you ever do a pick'em league, you'll figure out why real quick. When you have a bunch of games, you're like, I don't know shit about this. But Jason, before we get on that, you were in the shoe Saturday night, checking out the Bucks from your pretty sweet season ticket spots. What was this atmosphere like? What'd you think during the game?
That first play, you know, hyping up before that big completion where the missed tackle, it was the loudest. Like I've been to every big game in the shoe for the last 10 years. That was the loudest I've heard it to start a game. Like the south end zone was rocking like 30 minutes before kickoff. They were really into it. And I had high hopes, and then it was kind of like that play dampened it a little bit. And then when we fell behind and didn't do much on offense for the next quarter, it was more of a frantic, kind of anxious energy to the building. And it was still loud at times. Yeah, tension in there for sure. You could feel it. And even Notre Dame fans that were a couple sitting around us, they weren't, you know, they'd make a play here or there. They weren't too hyped until we finally went ahead there on the Xavier Johnson. That's when it was kind of like it was relieved, and then it was like it was on. Then the crowd really came back into it. So it was one of the more interesting games. It wasn't the Oregon game last year. I think people realized that we were going to lose that game about, you know, a little after halftime. They're like, okay, they didn't see any hope. We knew there was hope there, knowing that we saw what this team did last year. So it wasn't ever like people gave up. It was just more of like, come on, you know, we know it's there. Just wake up.
I've been there, baby. I've been there. I've always thought, you know, I think I mentioned this on an earlier podcast, but Texas in 2005 was the loudest I've seen it before the game too. Like it's just the early season, like you're ready to get going. Yeah. It's a night game. Everybody's liquored up. Yeah. It's a different energy than like Michigan later in the year when people are a little more nervous and don't have as much time to get lubricated, social lubrication.
Night games are just they're more fun. It's just a better atmosphere. People have all day to talk about and get hyped up and everything.
Yeah, which brings us to the exciting matchup this week, a big nooner against Arkansas State for the Buckeyes. We'll start with them, even though it's not an interesting game and not one I would bet on given the line here. But we come in as 44.5-point favorites, I do believe, with the over/under set at like a startling, like a 69.5, I believe. Yeah, 68.5 right now.
Yep.
I said it on a podcast with Casey when we previewed this game. I was taking the points with Arkansas State, and the under. The under is way more appealing to me than the points because that could easily be a 56-10 game and they cover, and it's the under, or it could be 52-14 and they don't cover, and it's still the under.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it to you. Our defense looked, you know, phenomenal against Notre Dame, except the back four, the safeties and the corners, because not that they didn't look bad, they just weren't tested enough. You know, Notre Dame didn't have time to get the ball off. There weren't a whole lot of deep shots, and the deep shots that they did do, they completed. I mean, yes, a couple of them were lucky, the bobble catch on the ground and then the missed tackle on the edge of the first play. And Arkansas State likes to pass the ball a lot. Their good coach, Butch Jones, is there. So I think that they're going to actually test our secondary. They're going to do a lot of quick passes, maybe some outside routes on the edge to see if our tackling is shored up. So I think we're not going to cover for that fact. I think they're going to pass, and they're probably going to score a couple times because this will be our first test on the secondary. You know, I still think we'll probably win by about 40 points, but 44 or 45 is just a little too much for me.
Yeah, it's one of those lines that anything could happen at late in the game because you're talking second and third stringers get in there, a couple of scores. I mean, Arkansas State put up 58 their first week against the mighty Hugh Jackson-led at Grambling State, your favorite coach of all time. You and the Dyerwolf, Big Hoss. I don't think that's going to be replicated, but it's just a scary line. Stay away from those kind of lines.
Yep.
I say that, but I think I have a couple in here. But our game aside, which is going to be a laugher either way, let's get into the meat of the college football Week 2 slate, which isn't the best,
Oh.
but headlined by
yeah.
a new kick with Alabama, Nick Saban, traveling to Austin, Texas for the first time in a while, take on his former apprentice for a very brief amount of time, Steve Sarkisian, and the Longhorns, and former Buckeye Quinn Ewers, briefly Buckeye Quinn Ewers. Did you hear he was on campus? I didn't know if you heard about that.
You know, I thought I got a glimpse of him when I was on campus down there on Saturday, but then I just realized that it was my memory from last year.
Yeah. This is a terrible inside joke that nobody knows about. Anyway, Bama is minus 20 favorites right now for the game of the week. Woo! I'm all over Bama on this. This is actually one of my locks for the week. I don't know what I'm gonna call mine. Not delights though, but I like Bama a lot in this game. Texas, Sark is not a great coach. I don't think they're very unproven on a lot of aspects, but outside of their receivers and obviously Bijan. But their O-line wasn't very good last year, and they're playing one of the best D-lines in the country, including the best player in the country, regardless of position, Will Anderson. I like Bama to roll. Saban doesn't lose to his former assistants, until last year when he lost twice.
Jimbo. Yep.
Yeah, Jimbo and then Kirby Smart in the national championship game. But I think he's out on a warpath this year to rectify at least that situation. And he's going to start it here with Sark and just stomp a mud hole in him down in Austin. What do you think?
I didn't look up, and I should have. When was the last time Alabama played a good team on the road, non-conference?
They played at Penn State not that long ago. Maybe it's in the last decade, maybe like 2012 or something like that.
Because I know they did USC, but that was at I think Jerry World.
There's been a lot of neutral site games. Yeah,
the SEC in particular does that. I like Texas here with the points. I'm not saying Texas is going to win. I think it'll probably be a 17-point win or 14-point win by Alabama. But I like Texas for the fact that they have hope, and not only the people in the locker room, but the fans. For the longest time, it felt like Sam Ehlinger was there, just like with Martinez in Nebraska. It was like he was there forever, and it was almost like the fans wanted the new era. And I feel like with Quinn Ewers, this is the best quarterback prospect they've ever had, arguably since Vince Young. So I feel like they have expectations here, but they're not. It's kind of like Notre Dame going into the Ohio State game. They're just hoping not to get blown out, and I don't think they're going to. I think being at home with Dejon, Robinson and Quinn Ewers are enough, and if he can just get the ball out, that's the question, the offensive line. But I think they're going to be able to hang with Bama for the first half, if not the first three quarters, and then Bama's experience and Will Anderson will probably come a wreck in there in the fourth quarter when he'll wake up. I just think Texas, there's a lot to like there, building for the future, similar to USC, and I'll get to them later. So I think those two programs are finally getting in the right direction. And Sarkisian, I don't think he's, the Lincoln Riley where you knew he was kind of probably fail. I think there's a little bit more there and, more savviness there on offense to actually do something with the talent.
Oh, I've seen Sark coach programs before. He's been at big time programs, and it hasn't gone particularly well either time. So I'm confident that he's not that great of a coach. As a head coach, he's a great offensive mind, but as a head coach, I don't trust him at all. Over under on that game, 65.5. I'd lean towards the over, I guess, but it seems like they kind of want you to. We learned at Ohio State last week. That's a tricky proposition. I could see Bama going 49-20, which that would put you over though.
Yeah, I'm not seeing either team going above 40, 42. I just early on in the season, I know Bama put up a lot of 45 against Utah State, but
55.
50. Yeah. Against good competition, you usually don't see good offense until week 4 or 5 is when those offenses start to get clicking there. It's a lot easier for defenses to come in and just shut out the lights because they kind of have tape to go on from last year. So, but this Texas team is completely different. Alabama has nothing to go off of other than 1 week last week, and Texas is gonna not do everything balls to the wall to kind of hide some stuff for Bama. So, I think the under there is probably about right for me.
Yeah, under sounds good on that, but That's ones I'm not touching. I'm just touching, but I do like Bama minus 20. I like that a lot.
Yep.
And you are Texas. We're going against each other on this.
Yeah, going against.
I believe the Dyerwolf, one of his delights was Bama minus 22.
I'll take the win against both. It's all right. You guys can make it up later.
Oh, okay. Penn State and Ohio, OU. I guess go Bobcats. Whatever. Penn State minus 25.5 seems high. Over under is only 54. Looks like the money's going in on OU as well in that one. I would take OU plus that spread though. I'm not Sean Clifford guy. They struggled with Purdue last week. It was kind of a big game, but they do have a little extra time off playing that on a Thursday. Mm-hmm. But I'd still like OU in that one. Not too many big games though. The other noon big game though, the biggest one is probably South Carolina and Arkansas. Spencer Rattler's first big test in the SEC. Mm-hmm. Arkansas had the big win last week in against UC Bearcats. I watched a lot of that game though. I wasn't overly impressed with Arkansas. I thought they were very evenly matched with Cincinnati, and I think both are borderline top 25 teams this year. Although there's a lot of Arkansas love out there, but I didn't see it in that game. But especially the consistency on offense just isn't there. How do you have that one going though? Arkansas's 8-point favorites right now.
They're at home. I'm just gonna go with I didn't pick them in my 5. If I was going to, I would probably pick Arkansas, just being at home and Spencer Rattler still being new there. There's not hype in South Carolina just because there's not much talent there around. It's not like USC and Texas where there's talent around those quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. I saw enough of Rattler at Oklahoma to know that I don't see him being a panning out. Really.
He ain't that dude. He's not that dude.
He's not that dude.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was done.
I say he's one of the most overhyped people I've ever seen. The Heisman hype coming in and the number 1 overall pick stuff. I'm like, have you watched him play? Like, he's in Lincoln's offense. Lincoln Riley's offense is gonna put up freaking numbers. Like it's just not. And he wasn't even putting up that big of numbers. I never understood it. North Carolina coming off their exciting win against Appalachian State was a crazy game. -7 against Georgia State. That one that seems like a line that they want you to put on Georgia State. Or want to put you on Carolina. So I would take Georgia State in that one if I was betting on it, but that's not one of mine. Here's one of yours though. Wake Forest and Vanderbilt a nooner as well. Yep. Vandy plus 13 actually on this on DraftKings. You had plus 12.5, so you got a little extra half point there.
Yeah,
at home against Wake. Wake's ranked, but Vandy's looked good early on. This is one of your Haas's howling monkeys. I don't know. What do you have to say about this game? What makes you like Vanderbilt so much?
I mentioned to you earlier, these programs around the country that have never been good in the conference or really in the national scheme. It's good to see them be good, and I think Vanderbilt actually has the talent there at quarterback, a dual threat guy that can go put up 100, 150 yards rushing and 250 through the air. I think that's gonna do it against Wake Forest. Now, if this was an SEC competition team, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, I'm not buying it. But I think Vanderbilt's good enough to be at home, and their crowds actually has a reason to show up to the game. I think you can see them, maybe string together a 7-win season this year, and it'd be kind of cool, or at least 6 wins. It'd be cool to see them go to a bowl game and finally get some hype there.
They are known for having their stadium taken over because Nashville's a pretty nice little destination.
Yeah,
you can have a nice time on Broad Street and then go watch your team kick Vanderbilt's ass most of the time. But I don't hate that bet. That's a pretty decent line, and like you said, they have an offense that is suddenly capable, which is what they've been lacking for so many years. Even when Cutler was there, they couldn't score.
You see what these dual threat quarterbacks can do at programs that are mediocre, above average. Florida and Arkansas have, 2 of the best dual threat quarterbacks, and they're doing above average. And Vanderbilt doesn't have the talent, obviously, as those 2 schools, but a quarterback that can run and throw can mean the difference. It keeps the defense honest and can really just open up the playbook for, a first-year coach there in Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Wake Forest quarterback also making his season debut. He was out the first game. I think he had some issues. Middle slate of games for the day, though, 2:30. First, you got our opponent from last week, Notre Dame, 20.5-point favorites at home against Marshall. I actually this is one of the Dyerwolfs Delights. He's got Notre Dame minus the points. And that is actually a popular bet now, too, right now. More of the money's coming in on Notre Dame than Marshall. Over under 51, so they're expecting not a super high-scoring game. Notre Dame's defense and offense kind of looked that way last week. But I think a little come-down could be tough. I would like Marshall, but that's not one of my picks of the week. Yeah, I think Notre Dame easily wins the game. It's not in doubt, but I could see it being like right at 20. That half point's a little scary.
Yeah, I didn't see enough of their passing game. Their offense just didn't excite me. I think they'll probably cover just facing inferior competition, and usually they do pretty good at home. So, I think they cover there just for the talent discrepancy and them actually maybe being able to get time off to throw the ball. So I think they may be able to exploit their tight end in some mismatches finally.
Maybe they actually let their quarterback try and make plays. They didn't do that on Saturday night for good reason. I understood it. One of the hidden better games of the day, Pitt and Tennessee playing a game at Pitt.
Yeah, I saw that one.
They are 6-point favorites. The Panthers are. Tennessee's offense pretty nice, high-powered. Josh Heupel's got them moving at a very fast clip, but can they stop anybody? Pitt has Keldon Slovis. They had a really tough backyard brawl game. Were able to come out. It's a pretty tough start to the season there. Two solid P5 schools to run out of the gate. Not bottom, like they're not great teams, but they're not doormats. How do you see that one going? I'm not sure about that.
I mean, Pitt lost. I mean, they lost two generational talents there in Kenny Pickett and Addison. So I can't go off of 1 week, and I didn't tune into that West Virginia Pitt game. So it's tough for me to go off of it. So I don't really have an opinion on that because I'm excited to see what Pittsburgh can do in the ACC this year without those guys, and to see if Narduzzi can see if he can string together some wins and compete again. It'd be amazing to see if he can do that with the transfer quarterback even. With that being said.
Sorry, I got that backwards. Tennessee's the favorite there, which is interesting.
See, I was going to say that. I thought you had that wrong, but I didn't pull up the line.
I think I might like Tennessee in that game though. The Pitt game was a weird game. I watched a pretty good amount of it. They look like a decent all-around team, and Slovis can throw the ball, but he's not as consistent as Pickett. And I think Tennessee's offense this year, I actually like them quite a bit. I think they can win 9 games or so. They have to play Florida, Georgia, and Bama. That's always a tough trio. But, that's every year for them. Permanent cross-division rival is Bama. Right when they do that, Nick Saban becomes head coach. What a good time. What good timing for Tennessee.
Yep.
I'm sure they like that rivalry. Appy State is at A&M also. They're at 3:30. A&M's 19-point favorites. Appy State gave Carolina a hell of a scare last week. That could be an interesting game. I think that line seems a little low to me. But I believe that's another Dyerwolf Delight. Ding, I need like a noise for him. I'm on my soundboard ready.
No, you need the wolf wolf howl.
He likes A&M a lot, though, in that game. Maybe he's thinking Appy State comes down after that heartbreaking loss.
Did he pick any upsets?
No, he's chalk, baby. I think I'm mostly chalk. No, I'm not. I have two dogs.
I picked 4 upsets. I only picked 1 far.
Yeah, okay, Tim.
You gotta make the moves, man.
Love getting those points.
Yeah.
Love starting up ahead. Another 3:30 Big Ten game. It's a big one. Washington State comes in to play Wisconsin. This is one of my picks of the week. I got Wisconsin minus 17.5. I believe that's also a dire delight. I think we're out of the delights now. Thank God.
Don't keep saying it.
Yeah. I'm just going to keep saying it anyway. Wisconsin minus 17.5. They tend to, if they can physically maul you, which I think they can to Washington State. Washington State had a good defensive week, but it was against Idaho last week. Braden Allen, I think, is a legit stud. I think he's right in the same vein as the Ron Danes and the Jonathan Taylors. Maybe not quite that level, but he's a stud. And I think they can hold Washington State. They got held to 24 by Idaho. Wisconsin's defense is just a hair better than Idaho. Just a hair. Jim Leonard, I think, is a genius, and he's another guy I wanted at Ohio State when we were going through our misery last year. We got the right guy, though. We got Jim Knowles. But I like Wisconsin a lot in that game. Whenever they can pair this kind of defense with this kind of running back, they tend to just roll teams, especially ones that are inferior to them, like Washington State is.
See, it'd be interesting to see though. Both these teams lean on their defenses, and it's not going to be the 7-6 shootout that we saw with Iowa, or 7-6,
7-3.
7-3. Yeah, 7. Yeah, I was trying to do the math with the two safeties and the that shootout that we saw with Iowa and San Diego State, or South Dakota State. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see at least 17 or 14 points put up by both teams. I like Washington State with those points to go in there on the road and just lean on their defense with, Wisconsin's offense that is run heavy, and Washington State's been able to, shut down the run usually. So I'd like to see them, go in there and see this defensive battle.
The half point is a little bit tempting, but I'm a big believer in Braden Allen back there. One team I am not a believer in whatsoever is the Iowa Hawkeyes, like you said. 3.5 point favorites though at home in the Cyhawk battle. Iowa State Cyclones come in. Always an entertaining game. I feel like it always comes down to it. And 3.5 points isn't much. How many safeties would it take for that to cover? Just 2. They could win for nothing. Over under of only 40, so Vegas is not expecting offensive fireworks. I can't imagine why.
No.
But I actually I think both of us picked Iowa State with that extra half point is a nice little hook. This game seems to always be really close. And half the time, like somebody's getting blown out and then comes back, or half the time it's just a defensive slugfest, which is what I expect on Saturday, mainly because Iowa is inept. Maybe they come out firing because they're sick of hearing this crap, but then I remember Brian Ferentz is their offensive coordinator, so that won't happen.
Yeah, same reasons as as everybody. I think Iowa's offense is just non-existent, and that's an overstatement.
258 total yards in that game. In that game, not them combined.
Yeah,
can you imagine watching that?
There was a video of a little kid there who must have been at his first game, and he was going, just balls to the wall, just excited with energy, and the whole crowd was just dead. Like, everybody was used to it as an Iowa fan. They're just seeing this misery of an offense being put out in the field. so it's intriguing, to see if Iowa can kind of get a pulse there on offense, but I think Iowa State can go in there and get a win. Yeah. I think they'll win and obviously cover.
All right. Another Big Ten game that you have as one of your games that you're picking, Illinois 4-point favorites against Virginia, and you have UVA +4. What's your thought on that?
Virginia's offense, isn't high powered, but Brennan Armstrong has put up, a tier below Heisman numbers. He's, obviously from my neck of the woods in Northern Ohio. I like him. I like him to be able to go in Illinois, who is a little bit better offense than Iowa at least, but I don't think they're going to be able to, if they fall behind, with 10 or 14 points, if Virginia jumps out to a hot start like they, sometimes do, I don't think Illinois can catch up to them, unfortunately. And I like Virginia here with 4 points, and I think they'll go in and win and get the job done.
Win outright, +160 on the outright win there. You could just bet that money line, baby. Get a little extra juice.
Yeah, I might have to do that. Was it 57 over under too? That I might even take the under there, but
that's an ass. I would stay away from that line. That's a pretty good one. That's one of those ones I'm not sold either way. Houston and Texas Tech also at 4. I guess there's a lot of just middling games this week, like games that could be. It's only a 3.5 point line, and Texas Tech is actually favored. Houston didn't look great last week. Triple overtime in their game to win on the new 2-point conversion rule, which is stupid as hell. Night games. The biggest night game, Kentucky and Florida, probably it's top 25 matchup.
Yep.
Florida coming off a huge win at home, and this one's also at home in the Swamp. Huge win against Utah. Richardson, who was one of my picks for some good value on the Heisman bet, he was like +5,000 when we shot our podcast for the season preview, and he had a big game, 100 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns at quarterback, which is more how he's going to hurt you, I think. It's an interesting line, though. Kentucky has really improved over the past 5-6 years. They've recruited Ohio well, which is a big part of big key to success. Yeah, Stoops, bro. But Florida coming off the big win. I don't know. I think I like Kentucky with the points though. There, Utah was one of my. This is a shame I get to wear now. They were one of my playoff teams. But they were. This is what's so funny about it though. People are acting like it was insane that they were ever there, and because they lost to Florida in the swamp, first game of the year, and they were at the goal line only down 3 and threw a terrible interception to end the game. But they should have been in overtime at least. It was a bad play. And most people picked Utah because they had an experienced quarterback, people like myself, who shouldn't make a play like that. But it is funny that just like one little play can completely flip a perception of a team just upside down like that.
I was actually, it was like during a timeout at the Ohio State game, I turned on the Utah-Florida game when I saw Utah got the ball back with like a minute 50 left. And the first play of that drive, Utah's quarterback, I forget his name, he threw it right at a Florida defender. Like there was nobody within 5 yards of him. And it bounced off his chest, and that could have sealed the game there. So it's almost funny to see him throw another interception that was horrible, or throw another ball and actually get intercepted.
Yeah, not how you want to end it. But the Gators, I mean, if they can get another win here, that's a tough start to the season too. He's got a really good shot at getting himself in that Heisman race. Seeing what Bryce Young does, though, for some reason people are wanting to anoint him already because he threw 5 touchdowns against freaking Utah State. That's just silliness.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
you'll see against Texas. I think if he does video game numbers against Texas, it's going to be unfortunate to say he could have already walked away with it just for the hype. And their schedule's a joke compared to CJ Stroud's. I mean, Will Anderson's not going to get the hype. So that's just going to be unfortunate to see him if he walks away with the Heisman on that cupcake schedule.
No, I don't think he will. Oklahoma plays Kent State at 7. Only reason I'm bringing this game up is because it's one of my picks for the week. Oklahoma 33.5 points. I just think Kent State is in the MAC and not good. And Oklahoma came out hot last week. They actually played really well in Brent Venables' first game. I think he's got them feeling like they have something to prove this year. They're still talented across the board. And Kent State, like I said, it's just going to be a talent mismatch. Tons of money coming in on Oklahoma too on that one. It's minus 115 on their point line, and over under of 72.5. They are expecting some points in that game, and I think the higher scoring it is like that, and with the Venables is there, he's not going to give up 30 to Kent State. So I expect a big blowout for the Sooners.
It's their tune-up game before Nebraska next week, right? Too. So I think it's a little bit more extra motivation to go out there and get the starters. Hey, go out there, put up 45 points and a half, and then sit the second half before we get a big game next week.
Yeah, big game. Speaking of big games, Michigan with their second biggest game of their non-conference schedule,
a joke of
against the mighty Hawaii. Are they just the Warriors now? They're still always
Rainbow Warriors.
They'll always be the Rainbow Warriors to me. Coming into Ann Arbor as 52-point dogs. That line just moved, actually. It was 51.5 when we started this podcast. Hawaii lost to Vanderbilt 63-10 already. I said to stay away from lines like this. This is not one of my bets of the week because of that, but I would take Michigan minus 52 in this game. I totally expect like a 63-7 win. They're starting J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Maybe it might be interesting to not take the line because I don't think he's as good of a quarterback as McNamara. But so it's going to be a little bit of pressure for him to go out there and perform, and he might be trying to force, and not like Hawaii's going to put up a fight, but he might be forcing some throws there, and they might not cover for that reason.
My only counter to that is he's a dual threat guy, just like Vanderbilt's quarterback. And what is the score I said? 63-10 for Vanderbilt? Yeah. And there's a little more talent at Michigan, as much as I hate to say that.
A little more.
Other big night games, though. Speaking of Lincoln Riley earlier, first real test for him at USC, traveling to Stanford. The Trees are going to come in as 8.5-point dogs. This is one of my picks, though. It seems suspiciously low, meaning they want me to take USC or just want me to take Stanford. I'm going to take Stanford. Plus 8.5 there. Yeah, I like it. Whenever that seems suspicious, I'm going to go with it. And I think, Oklahoma had a lot of close games they had no business having last year with the talent they have. USC's similarly talented, except worse on the lines. they were able to just destroy Rice based on their talent on the edges that they just had a complete mismatch in and weren't overpowered on the line. Stanford, I mean, they're not great by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they're solid enough. And USC's still, I don't think they're the fully operational Death Star yet. So I'm going to take the points there with Stanford, with the Cardinal.
See, this is my my last pick, and I see them as that half-built Death Star like you do, but it is operational surprise, and I do think I think they're gonna win by. I think they'll at least cover and probably get to the 15 to 20 point range victory over Stanford. Yeah, they're going on the road, but I think they hit the ground running, man. I think there's a lot to like in Southern California. They're one of my, right now they're one of my 4 picks to make the playoffs. I think they're just. They've got the talent there, and I like them rolling through Stanford, who doesn't. I mean, they don't put up a fight.
I was going to transition into that until you so rudely stole it from me. Into the national championship, though, picture after week 1. I talked to Casey about it. We both said we thought Ohio State was in a better position than, or we felt more confident in their ability to win the national championship, make the playoff. But my Utah Utes let me down. So I'm not on the USC bandwagon yet, though. I'm probably on the 2 SEC teams making it now because Georgia looks so good, unfortunately. What are you thinking right now for your 4? Just one weekend.
Alabama. I think they're a lock. I think their schedule's too easy, and they don't face anybody until the SEC title. Yeah, they play A&M and Arkansas on the road. Those will be games that they might be only able to win by 10 or 14 points, but they win. I think they beat Georgia this year just for them having they've got determination now to beat them, and you put that in Nick Saban. So I think Alabama. I like Clemson just having the weakest. Them and the Pac-12 are the weakest, but I like Clemson. USC. Obviously, I've already hinted at that, and I think I love Ohio State, but we've got some tough games still left, and I have us in. But until I see we put a complete game together on offense and defense, and I think we'll catch that in a couple weeks against Wisconsin, that's when I'll make my determination against, okay, I think we're going to feed it and have a chance to win the national championship. But, I think Georgia is right there behind us. And if we go on and beat Wisconsin and we go through that tough schedule of Michigan State, Penn State, and Iowa, then I'll say, okay, because I'm not high on Michigan, but I am high on the other teams to possibly give us a better fight. So.
Yeah. I just think the schedule sets up so nicely for us. We can address a lot of our flaws. Michigan's definitely going to be a hard game, though. They're pretty legit on offense all around. And I do think they want McCarthy to be the starter. I just have that feeling. And he presents some unique challenges, but his lack of experience, and I guess he'll be more experienced by the time he rolls in there, though. But the revenge factor is huge for Ohio State. So I still like the Buckeyes to make it. I like Bama and Georgia both making it in. I think they both run the table now until they get there. Although Florida could throw a wrench in that, I think.
Just a little side note on my picks. If my picks somehow were to go through, which they never do, that would mean Notre Dame loses to all those teams, and they would have played 3 of my 4 playoff teams, and that I don't think has ever been done. That would be, I think Notre Dame is good, but just being at USC is the trump for me, losing to them, and then the Clemson having them at home. I think that'd be good. I think that would probably be one of the games of the year.
It has been done before, by the way. A&M played Clemson, Georgia, and Bama the year Bama defeated Georgia in the national championship game. I do remember that. So I remember they had just the worst schedule, like the hardest schedule ever that year.
Oh yeah, they did. They did play them.
They played Clemson in their non-conference that year, and should have beat Clemson, and they lost. They came close to winning like all those games, I think. Yeah. So recap our picks for the week. Myself and the Dyerwolf both have Bama -20, while you have Texas +20. That's the only game I think we all 3 picked. I also have Stanford +8.5, Iowa State +3.5 over Iowa, Wisconsin -17.5 over Washington State, and Oklahoma -33.5 over Kent State. The Dyerwolfs Delights are Bama -20, Arkansas -8 against South Carolina, Notre Dame -20.5 against Marshall, A&M -19 against Appy State, and Wisconsin. He stayed away from big games.
I did. No guts.
And Wisconsin -17.5 as well. And you had Iowa State +3.5, Texas +20, Vandy +13. I'll give you that officially here. USC minus 8.5, and Virginia +4 against the Fighting Illini.
Going underdogs, baby.
Oh, you love the points. You love the points. All right, that'll do it for this week's college football gambling preview. We'll see you guys next week when we recap the Buckeyes game and preview next week against Toledo. Like us, share us, follow us on Twitter at View from CDEC. We will see you guys next week.
Hey guys! Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world.